all right, boys and girls, get ready for Chapter 4, Part 2. I told you there'd be a Part 2. I'm not a liar. I would never lie to you. Let me move my face over there, and let's get started. This is going to seem a little random, but we're going to evaluate. What evaluate means is you take the numbers, or take an expression that you're given. It would be nice if I had the marker. Take the expression that you're given, and instead of A and B, you replace it with those guys right there. So we're going to do that. Instead of A, we're going to plug in 10, and whenever we plug anything in, let's put parentheses there, minus 5 minus B, but instead of B, let's do 4. So let's go left to right because it's just PEMDAS. 10 minus 5 is 5, and 5 minus 4 is 1. Easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Let's do it again. Y is 2. So instead of Y, I'm going to put 2 divided by 2 plus 1. PEMDAS again. Division comes first. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Plus 1. Let me see. 1 plus 1 is 2. Easy. Fun. Easy and fun. More of the same type of problem, but we just have to be a little bit more careful with PEMDAS. M is 1, so I have 1 plus P is 5 divided by 5. According to PEMDAS, you do division first. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. And last time I checked, 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay. Questions? P squared. It's going to be 5 squared. So 5 squared plus M means plus 1. According to PEMDAS, you do the exponent first. So 5 squared is 25. 25 plus 1 is 26. So in Chapter 4, you're going to have to deal with, taking stuff and plugging it in. That's why we're doing this. It seems kind of random that we're doing these problems, but it does serve a purpose. There's a method to my madness. Trust me. This is where it gets wacky, though. We learned in Chapter 1 how to do these types of problems, where I might give you an equation with 2 different types of variables in it, and I'm going to ask you to solve for one specific variable. We're going to see this a lot in Chapter 4. We're going to see it again in Chapter 5, and every now and then we'll see it in Chapter 8, I believe. So we're going to have to get used to it. So I take a look at a problem like this. I have to get y all by itself. Is y all by itself? No. What's in the way? A positive 4x that's floating around. So the way I get rid of a positive 4x that's floating around is I subtract 4x from both sides. You subtract 4 and the x and keep it together. Okay? What that does is that brings down y equals. Now, for Chapter 4's sake, anytime I have an x attached to anything, I'm going to write that out first. On the right side, I have a 5 and a negative 4x that don't combine. 5 and negative 4x don't combine. I'm going to write out negative 4x first, and then positive 5. Now y is all by itself, and I'm done. They don't combine because one of them has an x and the other one doesn't. They're not like terms. Don't combine them. Okay? Let's do it again. It's very similar over here. I have to get y all by itself. Is y all by itself? No. What's in the way? An 11x that's floating around. How do I get rid of an 11x that's floating around? Subtract 11x from both sides. That crosses you out. Y equals. Now, on the right side, I have a negative 5 and I have a negative 11x. I'm going to write out the negative 11x first. They don't combine because negative 11x has an x and negative 5 doesn't. So you can't combine them because they're not like terms. So I'm going to write out negative 11x minus 5, and then I'm done. Now, if all I did was ask you to solve for y and you wrote out negative 5 minus 11x, that's okay, But in chapter 4, I'm going to make you put the x part first. I'm going to make you. I'm going to force it. And now the problems get all wacky on us. Okay, I still have to get y all by itself, but in the previous problems, I had just a y, and on the left side with just a y, I had a number attached to x. Well, now I have something attached to y also. So when I look at this, I have to ask myself, is y all by itself? No. What's in the way? 8x and 3. So which one do I get rid of first? Always get rid of the one that's floating around first. Get rid of the 8x by doing the opposite of a positive 8x, which is minus 8x. That crosses out. Bring down the 3y equals. On the right side, I have a negative 15 and a negative 8x. They don't combine because one of them has an x and the other one doesn't. They're not like terms. I'm going to write out the negative 8x first because let's get into the habit of always putting the 1 with the x first. Then minus 15. Is y all by itself now? No. There's a 3 attached to y. So what do? Divide everything by 3. This is what we did in chapter 1. Divide everything by 3. When you do that, you have y equals negative 8 over 3. Does that simplify? Nope. Don't forget your x. Minus negative 15 over 3. That does simplify to minus 5. So if you can simplify it, but keep it improper. Let's take a look at the next one. Is y all by itself? No. What's in the way? 3x. Anything else? 4. It's just like the last problem, just with different numbers. Let's get rid of the one that's floating around first, which is 3x. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. Subtract 3x from both sides. Give myself a little bit more space. The 4y drops down. On the right side, I have an 8 and a negative 3x. They don't combine because one of them has an x and the other one doesn't. All right, so let's write out the negative 3x first and then a positive 8. Is y all by itself now? No. What's in the way? 4. How do I get rid of 4? Divide 4. We're going to divide everything by 4. If you can simplify your fraction, simplify it. If you can't, keep it improper. Negative 3 over 4, can't simplify it, and it's not even improper. It's just a nice old quarter fraction. 3/4 fraction, in fact. This next guy, though, 8 divided by 4 is 2. Ooh. So this problem was very, 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 very similar to the one on the left. So when I look at these problems and I go back to the previous slide, these are okay problems. Difficult, but not too crazy. These are difficult problems, and these are crazy problems. I would say that these are crazy problems, but you're going to have to deal with crazy every now and then. I do it all the time. All right. Is y all by itself? No. What's in the way? X. What else is in the way? 7. You bumped your head, my goodness. Huh? It's getting there. Oh, no. Oh, I'll give it a kiss. Better? All right, go back to bed. I love you. Where am I? Is y all by itself? No. What's in the way? X. What else is in the way? 7. Which one should I get rid of first? And all the problems that we did, we always got rid of the one that was floating around first. So in this case, I'm going to get rid of x because x is just floating around. Cross that out. Drop down the 7y equals. I have a negative 7 and a negative x on the right. Do they combine? No, because one of them's an x and the other one's not. Okay, I'm going to write out the one with an x first. So minus x minus 7. Now, I know what's going to happen next. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to divide everything by 7, but here's a problem. You divide every number by 7, and you might be thinking, there's no number in front of x. It's just a negative sign. There is a number in front of x. It's an invisible 1. Gotcha. So that crosses out. Y equals negative invisible 1 over 7x minus 7 divided by 7 is 1. Now, if you look at this problem and look at the next problem, you're going to be like, oh, they're kind of like the same again. So I know what to do. I know that y is not all by itself because x is in the way and negative 4 is in the way. What do? Get rid of x by subtracting x from both sides. Negative 4y is all alone on the left. Negative 4y, not 4y, negative 4y. On the right side, I have a 12, and I have a negative x. Which one should I write out first? They don't combine, so I'll write out negative x because we always put the x first. 12 is positive, so positive 12 plus 12. I know what's going to happen next. I mean, it happened over here, so if it's going to happen over here, it's going to happen over here. I'm going to throw an invisible 1 in front of x. I'm going to divide everything by negative 4, like so. Y equals negative 1 over negative 4 is positive 1 over positive 4, so 1 over 4x. And then 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. There you have it. So these are really difficult problems right here, but we're going to see this a lot in Chapter 4. If you're not sure about the last 6 problems that we did, I have a bunch of videos from Chapter 1 that you can go watch. It's called Rewriting Equations or Rewriting Linear Equations. I think it's just going to be called Rewriting Equations. If you want to look on YouTube for Rewriting Linear Equations, after you watch this and you're like, I don't know what to do, that's not a bad idea because this is challenging and a lot of people have a hard time with it. But that's that for Chapter 4. You should be ready and good to go. Bye!